We're going to welcome to the stage now more colleagues, Dr. Michael Crafton, and I think, is it Mr. Henderson? Dr. Henderson? Not doctor, Mr. Henderson. I know it's Dr. Hester, if you'd come forward. And is it Mr. Barlow? Mr. Barlow. And our colleagues that are coming to the stage right now are going to take about 7 minutes apiece and talk to us, share with us information about their survey rollout and their action plans from the Engage West survey. So why don't we go into in the order of the presenters, and here's our first presenter, Dr. Crafton.
I wonder if we could go back to that PowerPoint that we were doing earlier. Is that possible? The first one we started with the scorecards? And if not, it's okay, but. Seven minutes, eh? Okay, all right, let's see. I don't know if I can count. All right. Thank you all very much. I'm sorry that I'm up here again, but I volunteered, new guy and sort of. And we did our Engage West rollout by, of course, as all of you did, by studying the results of the survey and then having a meeting and trying to decide what were the key points and then going away a while and then thinking about them and coming back and having another meeting and trying to narrow them down. So what I have here as a part of, yeah, that's it. If we can just go to my bit, if we can just go forward, were the action plans as a part of the rollout. Now, also I'll say, watch my time, is that as was the case with my scorecard, my presentation is not very good, as I'm new to all of this, but I'm doing my best. Of course, we have others who will do brilliant work in presenting their scorecards, so they'll make up for the loss, which is a good way to organize it. One of the things that was interesting to us, we had a couple of sort of confused points about whether or not our action plans were going to be an action plan that was going to be, let's say that the leader of the unit would be held accountable for himself or herself, or whether it was something that each individual in the group would take as a personal point of obligation, let's say. And we went back and forth on that amongst ourselves. We finally realized what we needed to do was to put everything on me, and then all would be happy. And that was fine, of course, but yet really it is a collaborative. These action plans have to be. The other thing that was interesting, let's see if we can scroll forward, here it is, some more to just the action plans, get past this mess. There we are. Is that it? Yeah. Okay. Was that, in looking at the Engage West survey and seeing some of the areas of improvement, or how to call it, opportunities for improvement that we have, nothing is bad, there are just opportunities for improvement. That's what we all. And of course, a lot of us saw the same things. Right? I mean, more and more pay, number one, without question, material needs, but then issues of collaboration, communication, transparency, the sensitivity of upper administration to everyone on campus, availability of development, career development pathways, and also some processes that seem to need improvement. This just came back again and again and again as we talked. And so what we tried to do was to narrow it down to 3 action items that tried to hit most of this. And so the first one was process improvement. And this, the order I don't think is really prioritized. These were 3 equally important action items, we thought. So process improvement was one, and if it's process improvement that's on me, to be responsible, then one of the things that I would do was to try to work toward a smoother, timelier, more efficient method of working through our budget, working through our evaluation methods, getting it done earlier and making it clearer to everyone, and a more collaborative process. So collaboration is a kind of leitmotif through all of these things that we talked about. I'm not sure if that makes good sense, but I'll give you one clear example. One of the things that we do every year is to put forth a budget request. And the budget request, for our purposes, is mostly about positions. How many faculty lines do we need in the certain areas? And there's a lot of mystery that seems to go on or seems to, about how those are determined. So one of the things we promised to do was to make that as clear and objective and available to everybody as possible. So that's one of several. Also, the evaluation process we were going to try to improve. The second one was professional development. Again, varies all over the place, but one of the things that seemed to be clear in the Engage West survey is that a number of people felt that they were sort of stuck in a position in a way, you know, that they were there, they didn't see a clear path for promotion or a clear path to develop. And so we thought we would take it on ourselves as a group, my group, the deans and staff in the office and so on, to say we would be committed to doing and accomplishing at least one form of career development each year, at least. Now, of course, sometimes you can't pay for all the things you would like to do. You know, a summer at Harvard would be really nice, but it happens to be about $100,000, so you know, we're not going to do that. But there are other things that we can do. There are smaller conferences, even at Harvard. And there are workshops that we have here, as we heard about earlier. There are things we can put together ourselves and provide, and just try to encourage the sort of awareness of these and encourage participation. So that's one that we said we would make at least one. And then we would hope to build on that. The third item then is improved communication through collaboration. And again, as I said, really collaboration is a leitmotif. I mean, we want to work with other people, cross divisions, to make these things happen. And here, what we're talking about is creating, this is sort of my thing, to create a lot more cross-divisional groups who get together and talk and advise and inform all of us about what's going on. It's one of the things that I talked about earlier is to create a staff group from all different areas of campus, a faculty group from all kinds of different areas of academic affairs, meet regularly with no agenda other than just to talk about what's going on, ask questions and so on, and then bring those two groups together periodically and have sort of a, you know, cross-species fertilization experiment, which I think is good always. Now those are my 3 bits. I think I've just a tiny bit under my time, which is always wonderful, and I will hand it over.
Good job. Well, hello, my name's Brian Henderson with Information Technology Services, and I'm going to use the low-tech feature today, piece of paper. But what I thought I would do is just sort of, I've sort of titled my presentation, Engage West, How Did We Get There? So to set the stage, I was going to tell you who we are. ETS is Enterprise Technical Services, and we're made up of the data center operations, networking, systems administration, and telecommunications. We have 11 employees at the time of the survey, and we had 100% participation. Since we are such a smaller department, all of our departments rolled up to 1, but we do have 3 participants on LDI committees who are in the room today, and I'd like to, well, later on I'll thank the entire department. But our timeline was on May 9th, after our initial LDI training, I went back, I shared our departmental results, which everyone was very eager to receive, shared those with the department, and then on May 29th, we had our first Engage West meeting. We tried to hold the meetings to about an hour. So at our first meeting, we just had general discussions about Engage West, the Leadership Development Institute, and we had lengthy discussions about our individual departmental survey results. Obviously, that's at the departmental level, that was everyone's eager interest in discussing our results and how can we obviously improve upon them. So that was, and then we took comments and suggestions on moving forward, and we dismissed. So on June 10th, we had our second Engage West meeting where we discussed more the purpose of Engage West. We set some expectations, and we really tried to stress that this was the opportunity for the department to make their suggestions to us, the leaders, on how we can become better leaders. So throughout the entire process, we really tried to stress, you know, this is what you're going to make of it, and it's your time. We express or explain the part that, you know, speak your mind, be professional, be polite, but please speak your mind, and, you know, no one's going to have their feet held to the fire, so to speak, that it was not going to be tolerated. So on June 18th, we had our third meeting. Well, during our second meeting, we just, after we discussed those areas, We started to focus on our individual focus area selections, and it was obviously all over the board with everyone's personal opinions and outtakes of the entire process. So as the discussions seemed to stall and to sway left and right, we thought it would be a good idea, and from a recommendation from one of the other members of the team, to give everyone some homework to go back and to come back with to the next meeting with your top 3 to 5 questions that you would like to see us focus on. And we would, again, have discussions over those. So at our third meeting, we did that. On June 18th, we had our third meeting. We tallied the individual results and discussed them in length. As a department, we agreed upon the top 3 questions to address for our focus area and for our action plan. And then we left. So June 7th, I sent out the draft of our action plan with those 3 focus areas and opened it for comments and suggestions. And then after that, we made it finalized, and we've begun to work on our action plan. In our action plan, much like others, a lot of our areas was around quality and pace. In IT, you know, it's fast-paced, it's always changing, and it's, you know, moving right along very rapidly. So several of our areas surrounded the quality and pace, but one that I have not heard today that we thought was very important was question number 95 in the area of job security. More importantly, UWG is effective in retaining and effective at retaining valuable faculty and staff. We feel like it's very valuable in our department to obviously recruit and obtain the best employees, but also to keep the best employees that we do have for the longevity that will ultimately be the success of our department and hopefully the success of the university. So with that, in our plan, in our action plan, we're looking to foster new ideas and programs for increased individual satisfaction, promote individual and departmental accomplishments, cultivate the best work environment by positive reinforcement and advancement opportunities. So that was our Engage West roadmap. And at the end of it, I would say that it was an action plan the entire department had participation in developing. And again, I'd just like to verbally thank the Enterprise Technical Services Department for all that they do and day in and day out. Thank you.
This will be made available on the site. I'm Dr. Michael Hester. I'm the Dean of the Honors College and Transdisciplinary Programs. I was also part of the strategic planning subcommittee that dealt with values, and so what I want to sort of focus on so you get a variety of what the survey rollout action plans look like is how we kept values at the center of our actions and not just set over there to the side as abstract. So step 1 was transparency, talk about inclusiveness, caring, where every staff member within the Honors College was given all of the same information that I was provided with regards to the survey results. There was no filter, there was no, oh, they don't need to see this, they got all of it. Step 2 was that we have to have a conversation about that. Caring, inclusiveness, integrity. Inclusiveness in that everybody is an equal at the table having the conversation. Integrity in that we have to look ourselves in the mirror and sort of be cognizant of where our weak points are, or I guess the euphemism we're using at the LDI is areas for improvement, right? Step 3 was simply collaboration, innovation, wisdom. Wisdom, of course, being not only knowledge, but knowledge applied with good judgment to come up with some ideas that we could achieve internally within the Honors College. And then step 4 was continuing that at the July strategic planning meeting. And then we just met yesterday via guacamole, salsa, chips, and some margaritas at the border to continue with our staff meetings. And we came up with some ideas. And to give you an idea of where I think leadership can take place, since this is what we're supposed to be doing, is there are things that my staff and I can accomplish together, and then there are times where I need to step up and be accountable in things that they may not be able to achieve. So I'll give you an example of that. One of the areas that we noticed that wasn't necessarily an area for improvement in our survey rollout, but was across the board was recognition and awards or acknowledging the good work that's being done by faculty and staff. One of the programs that's under transdisciplinary programs is the Center for Interdisciplinary Studies. The interdisciplinary studies programs include either 6 or 7, it has changed, minors, and 2 or 3 majors. None of those coordinators have ever been compensated before. They did that out of the goodness of their own heart, the passion they had for scholarship. I took half of the director's budget that's provided to deans and set aside for this year compensation so that each of them will receive a $1,000 stipend. That's something that I can do internally rather than trying to convince my staff that I should do that. That was an easy conversation. Hey, can I use my money to fund these other people and buy this license? Yeah, absolutely do that, boss. So that's an example of something we can do, not only reviewing the survey rollout results for us, but across campus. Now, internally, an area for improvement that we had was we do not engage the rest of the campus enough, and we need to do more with that. And so that's where the conversation internally really took place over the last 2 strategic planning meetings. We brainstormed ideas, and we have begun to collaborate. Fortunately, we have some great people on campus who we have previous relationships with, Deidre Haywood-Rouse and her staff in the Center for Diversity and Inclusion. And so we looked at some of the events. They have a great calendar of what they're going to be doing all throughout fiscal year 15, of ways that we can collaborate and support the work that they're already doing. So for example, through the Honors College and Transdisciplinary programs, we're able to support the efforts that they're going to be doing in the spring to bring Dr. Steve Perry to campus for the MLK program. That's an event that's all them. All the credit goes to them, but we can play a supporting role through resources that they may not have to bring great speakers onto campus. The email that we received 2 days ago, I believe, or 3 days ago, that talked about August 25th and 26th, new students on campus. They don't know what's going on. They have no idea where Pafford is. They have no idea what a TLC is. Half of our staff at yesterday's meeting committed to filling out the doodle poll, being there for the 2-hour sessions so that we can help students. Not only our staff, like myself, who've been here forever, 25 years, either as a student or an employee, but new employees who see this as an opportunity to get to know students, like our new academy recruiter, and quite frankly, get to learn the campus themselves. So opportunities like that are the conversations that we have taking place within ours. And it really boils down to beginning with transparency, all the information's laid out, there's nothing kept from anyone, inclusiveness, integrity, and wisdom in the conversations that we have, collaboration, cooperation where possible, so that all throughout the process, values of West Georgia inform the action that the Honors College and transdisciplinary programs take to achieve not only the vision for the entire university, but the vision that we've decided in the Honors College for the Honors College and transdisciplinary programs, which is to aspire to be the premier catalyst for student excellence. Thank you.
Sure. Thank you for the opportunity to speak with you. I'm already violating 2 life rules. 1, do not follow Mike Hester in any speaking engagements, and 2, never take an engagement that's 7 minutes. It usually takes me 8 to 10 minutes to even introduce myself. So I'll be as brief as possible here in talking about what we did with our rollout plan. This is our team here, the Office of Admissions, and here, hey, look at this thing. I did want to give a sense a little bit from scope, because you need to understand who we are, what we do. Obviously, you think about admissions, you think, okay, I know that's your recruiting for students. Okay, I get that. But we are a fairly large group, 20 total folks. Longest duration has been 22 years. I've got some folks who probably just started a month or so ago. So we have a wide breadth in that area. And then ages ranging from 23 to 64. So lots of different levels of experience. But for me, it's really about this critical piece. And so when I talk about the success of an action plan, it starts with the rollout. Because for us, we knew that trust was already a substantial issue for us. And so it was no surprise when we looked at those results. And that was something that you'll see is evident in terms of what our action plan is. But it had to be a strong rollout to then have a successful action plan. And that started not just with me, but it also started with Ketty Ballard and Katie Ross, who are both in this room. They are the associate directors. All of their results rolled up under my results. And so we all kind of had to own this process a little bit. And it was so critical to get the buy-in so that then this action plan, which you'll hear about in a moment, was so successful. So I wanted to give you just a little flavor of what our rollout went like, because the rollout was critical to the action plan success. And it started with that vulnerability piece. We each wrote letters to our staff, and I'm going to read you, this is the ultimate vulnerability for this room here, a little excerpt of my letter. I ended my letter with this summation. I admit to making mistakes. No one gave me a management or director of admissions manual. I accept that some of you don't trust me. I have to accept that as past history weighs heavily on those mistakes, they were, well, mistakes. I want there to be no misgiving about one thing. I want to do better so that we can do better. To do that, we have to be honest with each other. We have to face every frustration and let them go. We have to be open to conflict. That is this process. It is meant to be uncomfortable, but I hope that taking a moment to share my hopes, my fears, and yes, absolutely my failings helps you understand this isn't personal. It can't be when you want us to succeed. So I asked that general question and approached that, but then we went further, and that we tried to create a thematic notion that there were these things that would be hanging above our heads at all times if we didn't address them. We Ketty gets a lot of the credit here. She created a video. We took photos of all the things that we struggled with, and we put them all over the office. And the idea is that if we don't address these things, they're just going to be hanging over us. And then we took those things and we put them into one of 4 quadrants. Because again, this survey took a while, and it's very possible that some of these things aren't relevant anymore. It's very possible that some of the things right now can't be changed. They may be in the process of being changed. So what we did is we gave the team each 3 or 4 of the problems, and then we asked them to actually put them in the quadrants and talk about what that meant to them, and then invite others to talk about it. So it gave us an opportunity to get buy-in, to get active action. And again, for me, that's part of my action plan. I've got to get folks going and excited and buy into this. Because if they don't, then in some ways, the action plan that I'm going to describe to you, it really doesn't work functionally. So the meeting lasted 3 hours. Oh, and then it went to 6 hours. Then we moved on to 8 hours of meetings. And then finally 11 hours of meetings. And somewhere along that way, we came to results. Now, I consider 11 hours a victory, because I would argue if we had not had that buy-in, if we had not started from the beginning, it would have been an hour of silence and we would all just sort of walked out of the room. So I think we made some progress even with the time that we spent together. We ended up settling on 3 areas: trust, support, and really that ties to some questions related to work support and personal and work-life balance. Here are some of the things we're going to be working on to address these issues. And again, when I say addressed issues, I say that it is more about not just me affecting those things, but also Katie and Ketty as well. And so inside your handouts, I didn't want to go into a lot of detail, but there actually is the rough draft of our action plan inside there. So I did want everyone to be aware of what we're doing, but also not go into that detail for fear that everyone knows I'm going to talk for more than my 6 minutes. Trust. I'm stealing 2 things from Scott Lingrell. He's already done it well in the sense of trying to have trust from leadership down to our side. So I'm going to use the 2 things that Scott's working on and then support those. So we're going to have that University Matters section, and we're going to have weekly huddles and monthly meetings where we bring that in. We're going to execute an office-wide retreat, and I'm going to show you we've actually already executed that. And we're going to ensure weekly huddles. We actually have weekly huddles in which we bring everyone in the team together once a week and talk through issues, look at each other in the face. Admissions is very odd because recruiters, a lot of them are going to be out on the road 75 to 80% of the time, so we're really endeavoring to make sure that we see people as, well, people. Developing a shadowing program. We want to get operations team members out with the recruiters, and we want the recruiters to watch what it's like to do the day-to-day actions of an operations team member. We want them to have buy-in, to not see them as just the others, but to see them as actually part of an overall cohesive team. And then we're going to execute socials and celebrations on a monthly basis. Again, by getting that buy-in, by getting that personal interaction, we're going to be able to develop trust. Work support. We're going to ensure at least 2 people are cross-trained for every job. So you don't have to stress out if you want to take a day off. We've got people that can do the job that you do. We're going to establish a communication plan. A lot of times what we heard in our rollout is that people had a burning question that they needed to get answered, and they didn't know who to go to. So we're going to establish that and make sure that's clear. We're going to create an activity task system so that if you aren't able to get an immediate response and it's not an absolute red fire issue, that you can post that, much like a work ticket system in IT, and we'll make sure that we get you your response so that you can move on. And we're going to identify where student labor may be able to help. I am over the moon with what we've done with student labor. We're going to continue to work on that. We're going to continue to build the next generation of admissions employees as well through that. And so we're going to look at ways that that might help alleviate some of the work. And then this is a key component for our plan. We're going to begin to require quarterly action plans, and we're going to hold action plan meetings between the employee and their supervisor. And the idea about that is to be intentional. We're going to identify those micro quarterly goals, tie them to the annual goals. Of course, all that's going to be tied back up. But the key component here is that people felt overwhelmed by everything that's going on in those 12 months. So we're going to break it down into quarters so that they have a little bit more of a manageable piece. If you know one thing about admissions, I'm given that number at the beginning of the year, and it's very overwhelming. And so it's overwhelming for the team under me. And so we're going to try to break that up and really make that a manageable component. And then finally, personal and work-life balance. This is a critical piece because our team is out, usually in the fall, our recruiting staff in particular, 60, 70 hours a week. It is a unique opportunity to see the state of Georgia, but it's also overwhelming at times. So we're going to make sure that we define a flex time policy. I've already been in contact with Juanita. We're going to try to really hammer that down. We're going to honor that if you work, till not 2 in the morning, but if you work till 11 p.m. at night at a fair, that we're honoring that, and we're trying to not make this experience as overwhelming. We're going to encourage campus involvement. Even during work hours in consultation with the supervisor. That campus involvement piece, also this annual leave and flex time piece, are going to be built into the quarterly action plan. The idea being we've got to be more intentional. So when we sit down on a quarterly basis, we're going to go to someone, we're going to say, I see you've got a whole week of very heavy travel here. Let's see what we can do to look out for you. Or when do you want to take a day off? I can guarantee you I've got probably half my staff who probably haven't taken 2 or 3 days off because we bleed for this university just like I know all of you do. And I think a lot of times we've got to be intentional about making it okay to take time off, making it okay to make sure that we're flexing your schedule, but you're still working the 40 hours. So we're going to be really intentional about that. And then we're going to do, with bi-weekly, the recruiting, where I think I see the biggest issue with flex time. We're going to be very intentional about that. And then we're going to develop an office safety plan. One of the things I didn't anticipate was that there was some folks who didn't feel we had a strong enough office safety plan, and I put that under personal and work-life balance because the question seemed to indicate, and what people told me was that they just wanted to know that the front door was locked because they were working till 6 or 7 o'clock at night, and they wanted to feel supported in that. So we're going to work really hard to create that. Where are we today? We have started the plan in action. Our cross-training is pretty much getting close to complete. We have a full chart, and then we've also done a full-day retreat. In the past, the retreat's been very strategic. If anyone knows me, it was all full of numbers and all this stuff. And what this was 8 hours of trust-based stuff. Note, there is no picture of me up on the ropes. I swear I was there. But we did 8 hours of the trust-based stuff up at WinShape at Berry College. And I think we are beginning to generate good results. Again, it's about purposeful and careful action, and we're really excited to see about where we're headed. So thank you for listening. If you have any questions, let me know anytime, okay? Thanks.
Hang on again. Oh, what happened here? Do we have a microphone? Do I have? Okay. We're 5 minutes ahead again. So let me ask if you have any questions, because if you don't have any questions this time, I'm going to have to tell you another one of my stories. So you may want to ask a question. Okay, that's it. Oh, we do? Where? Okay.
I do.
Please, Dr. Gizon.
These retreats are great ideas. I'm wondering how people are funding their retreats.
Retreats are a great idea. Dr. Gizon is wondering how people are funding these retreats. Dr. Crafton has not had one. Yes, Dr. Gant.
We use the e-tuition that we get. Now, some years we were told the e-tuition had to be used solely for items affiliated with e-learning, then other times we're told it does not. So when we have that latitude, we use the e-tuition, but the government rate is the key because I think it's $73 if you're staying overnight. And then we also got a reduction on the meeting package. So for me, we take 14 people, and it runs a little over $2,000. For the investment at the beginning of the year, and we come in focused, the dividends, I would say, is well worth it. And then when I'm not able to use e-tuition dollars, our dean subsidize our operational budgets. She makes sure that each chair has an equal amount of money per faculty person, and so for us, because we're under budgeted, we normally get an infusion in our budget, so we have used those dollars when we're unable to use e-tuition.
Are there other questions? Well, I'm going to have to tell you my story then, because we're 3 minutes ahead. Remember, I'm not allowed to talk about my colleagues, so they're off limits. So instead, I want to share with you my favorite student story. And to protect all our students, I'm just going to refer to this student as Kyle. So like all faculty, at the end of the semester, I was home grading. How many of you know the end of the semester grading? And I was grading what we call research papers. And I'm reading Kyle's paper, and within minutes, I knew Kyle had not written the paper. Does that sound familiar? So I went back to my office, and I discovered where Kyle had taken most of his material. So I asked Kyle to come in my office, and when he came into my office, I said, "Kyle, is there anything you'd like to tell me?" He said, "No." I said, "Okay. Is there anything you'd like to say about this paper?" He said, "No." And I said, "Well, let's talk about the process of this paper. Tell me what you did." He said, "I went to the library." And I said, "Well, what'd you do when you got to the library?" He said, "I looked at books." And I said, "Well, when you were looking at these books, what'd you do?" He said, and this is a true story, he said, "Nothing." And so I said, "Kyle, you plagiarized." He said, "I did not. I copied it word for word." True story. The best part of the story is, when my father was in life, I shared this story with him while I was at the University of Pittsburgh. My father was a major Reader Digest reader, or he loved the Reader's Digest. Anyone have parents who loved the Reader's Digest? My father sent that story to the Reader's Digest. The story was published. My father got a $50 check for my story. The worst part of the story is my father did not share those $50. Until the day my father left life, we laughed about that one student who brought such joy, not only to me, but to him. So let's thank our colleagues here, now that I've kept you long enough.